Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third public information meeting for the Pumping Station 17 Force Main Relief Phase 2 and Corridor Improvements Project. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Tonight we will share information about the design process, the construction corridor, site impacts, and anticipated schedule. Additionally, this meeting is an opportunity to give your input on in-progress site restoration and detour plans. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping rules we ask everyone to please abide by to assist us in having a productive and orderly meeting. Number one, due to the high volume of participants, all participant microphones have been muted for tonight's meeting. We ask that you please submit your questions to the meeting host through the chat, and we will address your questions during the Q&A portion of the meeting. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be available on the district's website on February 17th. With that, let's have a great meeting, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting.
Thanks, Jess. Welcome, everyone. As Jess said, thank you for joining this evening. My name is Rachel Feil. I'm a project engineer with the Madison Metropolitan Sewage District. I am also joined here tonight by Kevin Lord from MSA Professional Services, the engineering consultant. And also Teresa Nelson from Dane County, Chris Barnes from Town of Verona, and Chad Duchateau from Ice Age Trail Alliance. We will present several items tonight, including the construction corridor, site impacts, in-progress restoration, and detour plans. We will also cover some of the potential improvements that have been selected for incorporation into the project. One important note is that we are still working with our partners on these improvements. So we have not yet selected all improvements that will be included in this project. A few improvements have been finalized or are ready to be shared tonight, but for other improvements, we will follow up once we have completed discussions and that information can be shared. That said, if you haven't already, please sign up for our project email list on our website, which Jess will drop into the chat. With that, let's get started. Here's our meeting agenda. We will begin with a brief overview of the district project and the district itself. We will discuss then the anticipated construction corridor, including primary access locations and work areas. After that, we will share the site impacts and mitigation. We will then give an overview of in-progress site restoration and detour plans for your input. We will also update you on selected project improvements, and we will conclude with a general schedule update before questions at the end. Let's get started. The Madison Metropolitan Sewage District was created to protect the environment through treating wastewater. The district now serves more than 400,000 people in the cities, towns, and villages in the greater Madison area. We have over 145 miles of pipe that convey the wastewater to the Nine Springs wastewater treatment plant, which is located in Madison. That wastewater sometimes flows by gravity, and in other cases, it's assisted by pumping stations and force mains to overcome landscape topography. Here's an image showing how a force main works. Looking at this picture, on the right is a typical home. When you use the water at your house, that water then is conveyed by gravity and it enters a larger pipe. Again, that water is not stormwater or surface water, but wastewater. That larger pipe eventually flows into a pump station. The district pump station in the city of Verona is known as Pumping Station 17, where the pumps at the station pressurize the outgoing wastewater, sending it uphill. There is already one active district force main in the Verona area that currently conveys wastewater to the treatment plant. That existing force main is shown here in red and was constructed in the 1990s. As you know, the Verona area population has grown since then and has been one of the fastest areas of growth in the state. The west side of Madison has also grown and is continuing to grow. And if we do nothing, we will exceed the current capacity of the single existing force main in the near future, meaning it will not be big enough to carry wastewater flows to the plant and could lead to potential sanitary sewer backups and overflows. To avoid that from happening, we need to add a second or relief force main to help carry additional flows that the one force main alone cannot carry. The first phase of this relief force main was installed in 2001. The pipe stopped north of Arborvitae Place, so phase 2 needs to connect there. On the downstream side, we also need to connect to our existing sewer going towards the treatment plant. The first public information meeting involved route selection, and the second meeting helped refine the existing route. The final sewer route is over 2 miles long. Most of the sewer will be force main, as shown here in red. The force main will transition at a natural high point to a gravity sewer, shown in green, for the remainder of the length. Now, this map only shows the final sewer route. In order to construct that sewer, we will also need staging areas for material and equipment, as well as access locations. That brings us to this map. Here's an overview of the anticipated construction corridor. This is the area you may see construction equipment, material, crews. Again, this includes the sewer route plus access and storage locations. The anticipated construction corridor for the Badger Mill Creek paved path is also shown here as well. And in terms of access, for the sewer project, there is anticipated to be 2 primary access entrances for construction. The first primary access is off of Old PB, adjacent to the community gardens for work west of US 18-151. The second primary access is anticipated to be along Grandview Drive at a private property there to allow access for the area east of US 18-151. There will also be 3 anticipated secondary entrances for the sewer project. Now, secondary entrances will be blocked off for the project and most of the project and will be used only when work is going on adjacent to that area. So the first secondary entrance is anticipated to be off of Old PB for installation of the sewer underneath the highway. The second primary entrance for the sewer project is up along US 18-151 for the connection work that's needed there. And finally, the last anticipated secondary entrance is anticipated to be Pheasant Lane, again, just for the adjacent work needed to widen that trail there. I will turn it over to Kevin to share the entrances for the paved path location.
Thanks, Rachel. For the Badger Mill Creek path construction, we're working with the city of Verona on that, and that will be bid as part of this project in a complete package. The primary construction entrance is planned from the north that goes along the ice arena from East Verona Avenue. We'll be crossing the Military Ridge State Trail, and appropriate traffic control will be required at the crossing. The secondary construction entrance will be from Arborvitae Place. Access here will be minimized, however, some will be necessary and expected with the bridge abutments on the south side and the path work on the south side of the creek. A majority of the traffic will be concentrated for the paving of the path on the south side of the creek. However, there will be specific construction needs for the bridge abutments and grading on the south side as well.
Thanks, Kevin. So moving on, we are aware that this project will have site impacts, and we have been tracking those from the project start. Here are the four types of impacts that we have updates to show you and how we are mitigating them. In terms of wetlands, this project has completed surveys, and the DNR and Army Corps of Engineers have been consulted with to best minimize impacts. We have planned the anticipated schedule to maximize winter work for minimal wetland disruption. Additionally, we will be using best management practices where possible to avoid compaction, disturbance, and control erosion. Finally, we do plan on restoring and mitigating wetlands post-construction. And as part of this construction, we plan on purchasing credits from a wetland bank. In terms of waterways, we have coordinated with the DNR on needed crossings for the project. There will be 4 crossings of the Badger Mill Creek. The stream banks will be restored immediately following construction and ultimately restored to existing conditions, and any habitat improvements such as rock deflectors, log deflectors that are present today will be restored. In terms of wildlife, we are aware that this is a natural corridor and have completed an ecological field survey. The survey took an inventory of species on site. Shown here is a photo of one of those invasive species, honeysuckle, in the Goose Lake area. Aside from the survey, we had someone experienced with eagle surveys, and this person often performs them for the DNR, walk the Goose Lake Peninsula area looking for evidence of an eagle's nest. They were able to confirm there is not an active eagle's nest there currently. We have consulted with the Fish and Wildlife Service about the work in the area as well. Finally, we have taken wildlife into consideration for our anticipated project timing. Tree removal will be conducted during a time of year to avoid impacts to species of concern such as oak trees and bats. In terms of vegetation, you may have noticed along the corridor, if you walked it recently, round metal tags on the trees there. And these represent surveyed trees that are inventoried and tagged. Doing this allowed us to avoid high quality tree species such as oaks and hickory, which support native savanna restoration, and really focus our impacts on low quality species such as box elder and walnut. We are currently exploring reusing the trees that we remove in some fashion. And for trees to remain, we plan on using arborist recommended tree preservation techniques to protect trees from damage. Finally, the inventory that was done, I will be sharing with you here tonight and in the following day. This will be available to the public in our online viewer. Knowing from the last phase and previous comments, trees are definitely important to the public. We put this view together as a resource for all. I do want to stress that this tool is anticipated to communicate what we know today. And sometimes in construction, there are unanticipated situations that may arise requiring removals. We will do our best. What is shown in the tree inventory is our intent. And additionally, we have worked with adjacent landowners to the extent possible to avoid trees that are most valuable to them. So with that, let's take a few moments and look at the tree inventory viewer together. This viewer will be available on our project page starting tomorrow and contains inventoried trees, all trees greater 4 inches in diameter or more, and quality species under that diameter. So Let's go ahead here and open it up. So on the first screen, you'll see a splash screen that has additional information if you are interested in reading more. And after you hit OK to that, you can come in here and you can see the legend. Is everybody, really quick, just to make sure I'm still sharing here, is everybody still able to see my screen?
I can
Yeah.
see it, Rachel. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Wanted to make sure it was going. And after you get in here, you can see the legend. You can see in green, these are trees to remain. The red are trees intended to be removed. And yellow is even brush removal. So you can come in here, check out an area. You can kind of browse, and it even allows you to click on, a specific tree that you're interested in, see what species it is, the diameter, the condition. All of that really helped us inform our route. And again, things may change in construction, but this is our intent. And you can also, with this tool too, filter. If you're curious to filter by species or condition, diameter, this last one, the construction status, is really handy. If you just want to see trees be removed, you can filter that. And now we're looking at only trees that are going to be removed with this project. And just to show you, kind of the proof is in the pudding in terms of focusing impacts on low quality trees. There is a, on the right here, an infographic you can then turn on, and these are just looking at trees to be removed. And you can see that the majority of trees being removed on this project are walnut, box elder, and cherry. And so I do want to take a moment here just to acknowledge that beyond the quality of trees, trees may still be valued in different ways for their shade, cooling, wildlife cover, etc. And there are lots of ways to value trees just beyond their quality. So now I will turn it over to Teresa to talk about Dane County's long-term goal for their property.
Thanks, Rachel. Yes, I'm Teresa Nelson with Dane County Land and Water Resources Department. Since most of the project corridor runs through county-owned land, we have worked closely with Rachel and MMSD to lessen the impacts to our properties. This project gave us a chance to think more about restoration for this area as well. Dane County's goal for restoration of this corridor and the adjacent county-owned properties is to return it to its historical landscape, which was mostly wetland and oak savanna. Both of these ecological communities are composed of very few, if any, trees. The wetlands in this area were historically dominated by sedges or grass-like plants. Savannas were mostly composed of prairie plants and some fire-resistant tree species like oaks and hickories. And we are really pleased that MMSD, the project team went to great efforts to avoid impacts to those tree species along the sewer corridor, as Rachel just showed with the tree inventory there. It is very important to protect and restore these types of landscapes. Dane County has lost well over half of its wetlands over the last century, and oak savanna is one of the most threatened ecosystems in the Midwest, with less than 0.01% of the original savanna still intact today. And wetlands provide numerous benefits, such as reducing stormwater runoff and flooding, removing pollutants, and providing important wildlife habitat. And oak trees themselves provide habitat for hundreds of species of butterflies and moths. These trees have evolved with each other and the other plants and animals in the area, and really are the backbone of any successful restoration. So while we do not have full restoration plans for this property at this time, we will use the opportunity this project has afforded us to start working toward these ecosystem restoration goals. And just so that we're being as transparent as possible, I do want to say that we do not plan to replant the trees being cleared on Dane County land for MMSD's sewer project. We do hope to be able to expand the restoration and recreational access for this area in future years with additional funding and volunteers.
Thanks, Teresa. So at this time, we can share the in-progress vegetation restoration plans for public comment. This plan that you see on this slide is one of many that shows the types of seeding proposed. You can see here on the left-hand side, the seeding types, the legends that they correspond to where the seeding is proposed. And this restoration plans that are in progress, these will be shared and available online for a comment period. And also we are sharing online the proposed seed mixes that are to be there post-project. So you can see the mixes are similar to those used in phase 1 and will also assist in the reestablishment of savanna and wetlands that Teresa described earlier. Now, moving on to anticipated trail detours and closures. In terms of the project, it crosses various trails. Those trails include the Military Ridge State Trail, Ice Age Trail, and various local trails. And the reason we need to close some of these trails is that construction presents various hazards to the general public, including trenches, heavy equipment, unstable ground, etc. We acknowledge that the closure of trails is inconvenient for the public, but please understand we are closing and detouring for your and for others' safety. And we encourage you to explore other natural areas that are open during that time. In general, when closing and detour trails, the plan is to install advanced signage where possible, have detour maps when applicable, and send communication out to appropriate groups in advance. And I will turn it over to Kevin now to share a little bit more. These anticipated trail detours will be, enclosures will be available on our public website, again, for a comment period.
All right, thanks again, Rachel. Our first detour is the Military Ridge State Trail near the Goose Lake area. As Rachel mentioned at the beginning, we will be connecting to the existing Nine Springs Valley interceptor that is along Highway 151. So coming in from the southerly side, we'll be crossing this trail with the project. So there was some concerns regarding closing this trail and long-term detour routes on a lot of public roads for safety reasons in previous public informational meetings. So we worked with MMSD, and our plan currently is what's shown here, is to basically do it as a local detour in staged construction, basically. So we're planning to construct the sewer in phases to allow for basically just this local detour right at where we're basically going to be crossing it, rather than a large one on a lot of local roadways. The first phase of the construction is anticipated to be the downstream connection of the sanitary interceptor to the Nine Springs Valley, which is basically the green manhole on the top side of the diagram shown. With that will be we would probably divert the trail as shown in phase A. There would be basically a gravel trail placed on the southerly side that would route traffic farther to the south, right in that general vicinity. And we would build the interceptor then from the connection point to the south to as far south as we feel reasonable, that is still north of the existing Military Ridge State Trail. Once that's complete, we would build the phase B trail that's shown in the red pinkish color there. And then at that point, once that, we would detour traffic or bike traffic, walking traffic, users onto that. And we would take off from where we constructed the the first phase and continue building to the south. During both of these phases, there'll be additional local traffic control as well. As you can imagine, during phase A, there's going to have to be truck traffic that's going to be crossing that area. So there still will be, whether it's flagging and stop signs, combination of both, and as Rachel mentioned, just local traffic control as well. So those will all be included on each of the phases as we go. But the intent of this would be that obviously it can still be utilized during the construction period. This will be probably some of the initial construction is the way we're anticipating it right now. So this would be in place more than likely starting late this summer or fall until we get through the area. The temporary trails are anticipated to be crushed gravel. And then ultimately the Military Ridge State Trail will get paved back upon completion once we feel that basically that the restoration is completed enough throughout that they can access, and we're not going to destroy the path again afterwards. I think that's that one, Rachel. On the west side of the project, the Badger Mill Creek path, we are not going to be touching that trail. However, that is the construction access across the Military Ridge State Trail. So it is anticipated to stay open throughout construction. However, there's planned to be local traffic control that'll be in place for the crossing of construction traffic. This could be stop signs, a combination of that, and flaggers, depending on being utilized at times if there's consistent traffic coming in through the area as well. And then on the south side, the Badger Mill Creek path that exists on the south side up to Arborvitae Place will have periodic closures anticipated between Lincoln Street and Arborvitae Place, depending on the exact construction techniques and what's exactly going on for the bridge construction and the path construction on that south side. All right, and this map is depicting the westerly end of the project along the Badger Mill Creek, so located west of Old PB and south of the Military Ridge State Trail. The construction corridor of the sewer is shown in the light blue, and it might be a little hard to see on here, but there's a dark blue line that's the existing Ice Age trail. We've worked with the Ice Age trail and the routing of this trail during construction, which this map is intended to show. The first phase will route the Ice Age trail, basically from south side of the Park and Ride, basically along the Military Ridge State Trail. It's basically what is shown as the dark red line. So heading west, basically to the construction entrance for the bike path south of the ice arena. And then it'll utilize existing trails in the Dane County lands and come down and cross the existing bridge that is on the north side of basically the entrance, access entrance off of Arborvitae Place, and get back on the existing Ice Age trail. The intent is this will be basically planned for while the construction is going on the easterly side of the project, or basically starting late this summer through summer of next year. And this is all subject to change, obviously, with construction and everything, and when everything exactly gets started. But that's when the anticipated time on this side of the project, while that is going on, there'll be the Badger Mill Creek path will be under construction. And then they may be using the staging area and doing some clearing and grubbing on this side of the project as well. So the intent is that will be set up right away and be kind of the main route. The second phase of the project, when we get to building on this, the utility on this side, the intent is that the Badger Mill Creek path would be completed at that time. And the detour route would basically remain the same, except for it would utilize the existing Badger Mill Creek path, which is shown as the dark yellow line on this map, and utilize the new bridge and then go over for the time being. And then I believe Rachel and them are going to touch base on the final routes, that's later on. So this is just during construction.
Thanks, Kevin. And just to clarify, the existing Ice Age Trail runs, south here on the north side of the creek as such. And we'll touch on the final location here in a moment.
All right. And this, we've worked with Dane County. This is basically the same map, so it was before. The intent of this is just to show what's kind of shown in, it's a little hard to see, but it's not the dark red line. There's kind of a hatched red line. These are numerous paths that are within these parks, just what we've seen off of aerials and walked out there. And the intent is that these paths would be closed during construction. So the main route from this area is going to be utilizing the Ice Age Trail detour route to get to the north, getting to the parks and everything that direction. We will work with the county if there's a plan and a good time frame that these things can be open and kept open to the extent possible. But in general, the plan would be these paths would be closed through the construction period. And this is a map on the east side, basically at the Goose Lake. Very similar, showing a lot of the paths that we know of that are out there again in red. And it's basically the same idea here. These paths will intend to be closed throughout construction. This area is planned to be where construction would basically begin, as we just mentioned, kind of on the north end by 151. So it'll be starting, these paths will all be closed starting this summer. The only note that I can add on this one is that, these, as you kind of go through the restoration plans that Rachel had mentioned, you'll see a lot more, these paths are planned to be restored. Anything that we cross within the construction corridor, we've been working with Dane County on those as far as the path locations and restoring these paths as well. But during construction, the anticipation is these would be closed as well.
And just to add, I see it's not exactly shown on this one, but the path around the peninsula too would also fall into the closures.
All right, the garden access, a majority of the construction work in this area, just on the west side of Old County PB, is anticipated right now for late summer of 2024 through the spring of 2025. However, as we've been talking, there's going to be work prior to that, even this summer for material storage, tree removals, and things on the west side of the project as well. So we anticipate a separated construction access lane as shown, which is basically what's shown as the red line on here. Basically, this is anticipated with some barrels of sort. The intent is it won't impede drainage in the area, but will allow gardeners access with as little conflict with construction traffic. So gardeners to the south, construction traffic would go kind of between the red line and what's shown as the white line above it. And during construction, the mulch pile, which shown as number 4 on there, is going to be temporarily relocated, and then the gardeners parking would be allowed to basically as it exists currently, adjacent to the garden there.
Thanks, Kevin. Similar to last meetings, we have a feedback form where you can comment on both the in-progress restoration and the in-progress detours. This forum will close on February 24th at 6 p.m. If you want to get started here tonight, Jess will drop a link to it in the chat. And at our last meeting, now to transition to improvements, I presented some potential corridor improvements that are being considered for this project to solicit public feedback. And as mentioned at the top of the meeting, we are still working with our partners, but can confirm that 4 improvements will be implemented with this project tonight. And with that, I will turn it over to Kevin to give an update on the Badger Mill Creek paved path.
Thanks, Rachel. So as we mentioned before, we're working with the city of Verona as well on the Badger Mill Creek paved path. We've talked about the construction entrances and different things. So the paved path alignment is moving forward along the Lincoln Street channel per the direction of the Public Works Committee back in October. The project's going to include a new bridge over the Badger Mill Creek, and it'll be removing the existing bridge near the Arborvitae Place access. Upon completion of the new bridge. A portion of the path on the south side will be reconstructed. As you can kind of see it's small on here, but it'll be reconstructed to allow for ADA ramps up to the existing path, or between the existing path and the new bridge. And then the access path along or right adjacent to Arborvitae Place will also be paved with this project.
Thanks, Kevin. And I see we have Chad from Ice Age Trail Alliance here on the call tonight. Chad, would you like to share for the final Ice Age Trail alignment your thoughts? And Chad, you are on mute, just in. That helps. If not, I can cover it. The Ice Age Trail, the final route post-construction is intended to be in this dark blue line on the north side of the creek before crossing on the existing bridge to run south, basically along the creek there before finally crossing north to this bridge.
Yes. Hi, Rachel. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is Chad Duchateau, Director of Trail Operations with the Ice Age Trail Alliance. So yeah, Rachel clearly laid out the sort of the decided final route there that we worked with the community on, as far as sort of taking in public opinion on it. So the idea would be, yes, to restore the trail along the north side of the creek, and then utilize the new bridge there to the south as a crossing point, kind of aligning with the existing boardwalk there to on the south side of Badger Mill Creek, and then continued on the north side to the existing bridge in the north, and then cross over the creek, and then follow the corridor between Badger Mill Creek and the existing forested area there, as a mode path through that corridor, and looking to do some enhancements as far as the landscape goes from that standpoint. So
Thanks,
that's
Chad.
all I have. Yep, thank you.
Selected improvement number 10 will also move forward, and this area overlaps with an anticipated work area that will be disturbed with construction. The area post-construction will be seeded with native prairie seed mix and will be maintained for a few years following. And Chris Barnes, I see you're on the call. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything additional to that.
Thank you, Rachel. So this section does travel fairly close to Goose Lake, and it's an area that currently is that the county maintains for passive recreation. And in the near future, we will be working on some improvements to the outfall of the Goose Lake for storm drainage, but that's not included as part of this project at the time. Also the access will be minimized, and maybe we'll talk about this later. The access will be minimized from US 151.
standpoint. Yep. And that brings us to our next improvement, number 11. We'll also move forward. This will widen an existing local trail to make it a little bit wider for maintenance access. Basically underneath the vegetated surface, we will place rock to provide that stability for Dane County, town of Verona, and the district for maintenance. And as Chris mentioned, currently the only access point for maintenance, other than kind of squeezing between two pedestals there on DeMarco Trail, is really off of US 18-151. By widening this trail here as shown, it would improve long-term safety and minimize maintenance trucks crossing the Military Ridge State Trail. There will be some tree removals as shown here. The majority being walnut, cherry, and box elder, and the surface of this trail will be seeded with grass turf, and the intent is to grade to match existing. Okay, next steps for the project include reviewing the input you provide on the in-progress restoration and detour plans, obtaining permits and easements, completing detailed design, and finally bidding and awarding the project to a contractor. The anticipated schedule is very tentative at this point and subject to change, but here is an overview of those milestones. The project contract documents are tracking completion in May. And at that time, the project will be publicly bid. A contractor will be on board for the last public meeting in July. The contractor would then start work as early as this fall, pending weather, materials, etc. The intent is to start both the sewer and the path work right away. The path would tentatively be complete in summer of 24, with sewer work being completed the following summer of 25. And again, I want to stress this is subject to change, but we've been getting a lot of questions on the sequence. So here we are anticipating today that the contractor would follow a sequence with this work as shown. Again, this is subject to change based on weather, materials, and even the individual contractor site approach. In general, we anticipate that all silt fence, installation, brush, and tree removal, and the material to really show up this fall and be in place this fall. Generally, sewer installation we're anticipating it to start at the downstream end here and take fall into winter, and from there the work would really progress west. Concurrently, we anticipate the contractor to work on the bridge replacement and path along the Badger Mill Creek. And the intent again is that the path would be open summer of 24. And continuing on with the sewer work, you can kind of see how the rest of it progresses. Again, I want to emphasize all the dates, here is just, they're all tentative, subject to change, but this is what we are planning at this time. Staging in the two primary areas really we anticipate to be used throughout the entire project to some extent. I would like to wrap up now by mentioning our project webpage, which Jess already shared in the chat. And as a reminder, this presentation is recorded and will be posted on that webpage. And that recording could be as soon as tomorrow. We are anticipating posting the feedback form tomorrow there, the associated in-progress restoration plans, and tree inventory as well by the end of day tomorrow. So thank you for your time this evening. Here is our contact info and contact info of others that we've been working with on this project. And finally, would like to open it up for questions. And just a reminder to please put your questions in the chat. It allows Jess to read through them one by one and make sure we don't miss anything. So with that, I will turn it over to Jess. Jess, do we have any questions in the chat?
I don't see any yet, Rachel.
I did see one, looks like here, come in from Tom. Why direct funds to a wetland bank instead of to Dane County for wetland restoration in this area? Tom, that's something that's still in progress. Based on what I've heard so far from our permitting is that mitigation would be required via a wetland bank. But we can certainly keep you posted as we go. We should have an update at the next progress meeting. And it looks like if you are placing comments in the chat, if you can issue them to everyone, that would be great. It looks like I'm getting some direct questions here, but I will go ahead and read the next one that's sent directly to me. For those of us on DeMarco Trail, the trees on the east side of the construction area are the only barriers between us and the highway. I'm curious if anything can be done to preserve them. So let me pull up just a map. See if on the east side, let me just think here, East DeMarco Trail. Yes, so Daniel, I think I know what you're talking about. DeMarco Trail, the properties that essentially back up to the yards, the backyards face the Goose Lake Conservancy area. So we are looking to preserve as much as we can a strip of trees. And you'll see in the, see if I can bring it up here. The tree inventory viewer. We are looking to preserve some of these here shown in green. We again can't make promises. If we can preserve more, we will. But that is the intent there. We are aware of this concern, and we're trying to leave what we can. Obviously the construction will take room, but that's what we're doing at this time. And I see your comment. It says you are not allowed to post comments to everyone. Sorry, no problem. And if you'd like, Daniel, I think we can talk offline further about your property and the trees, but I would first say take a look at the tree inventory viewer, and we can talk offline further. Another question, is there a reason the yellow line along the tree line as opposed to going through the open meadow? Oh, you're saying the route. Why does the route go here versus the open meadow? Well, that's a great question. And there's, when you're designing a route, there's trade-offs. So in terms of down here, we actually did first look at that, but there are wetlands down there that we are trying not to disturb. And also feasibly, it's too shallow, essentially down there for the pipe needed cover. So this area a little bit up on the hill is the best location. And if you're familiar with this area, there's lots of honeysuckle. to take out along the way. So that's the intent there. But that's a great question. We actually did look at that. To try to stay, on that existing path as well.
Rachel, I've got a couple now in the larger chat. For 20 years, I have volunteered to mow trails in the Goose Lake area. I respectfully request those damaged trails be restored to their present state.
Yes. Yep. And that's why we're putting the restoration plans out there. Our plans are to restore where there's grass today in the Goose Lake area in terms of the trails, putting those trails back to grass. We know that people really enjoy those trails. Let me bring up a map here. We know that, they are enjoyed, and so our intent is to put them back. In terms of one small change that you may see in the, let me get to it here. In the trail network is, in terms of this path here, looking to basically just relocate this stretch down here that goes through wetlands and doesn't allow the wetlands to expand long term. Just relocating that up here when done. And then also adding a grass portion here. So that way, we continue on with that network of trails, but that is the intent, is to where these trails are today, restore that as grass. We understand that's utilized by the community and something that we want to continue to support.
All right. How does the future storm drainage work at Goose Lake affect the corridor improvements and the force main work being done now?
I don't think it affects it. Chris and I have been, talking throughout this project. He's aware of this project. We've, essentially planned for space above our pipe. So that's, that would be my response.
And one more. Thank you for a really good detailed presentation. I appreciate the careful attention to trees and landscape and look forward to seeing this area recognized as the valuable public resource that it is.
Thank you. I will add that it takes a team, so thank you. I'm not seeing anything else in my chat. We'll give folks a few minutes here. Anything else that you see coming in, Jess, on your end?
No, not right now.
Okay. Yeah. Just again, as a reminder, we will post, this recording tomorrow, as well as the feedback form, and that feedback form has the links to the draft restoration plans, as the in-progress restoration plans, as well as the in-progress detour for your comments. You will have 1 week until Friday, the 24th, end of day, to get us your comments on it. We also will post the tree inventory viewer tomorrow as a resource to you, Again, it's the intent, but you know that we're thinking about the trees as we go. And just if you're on the email list, that's how you'll get the notification that those have been posted tomorrow. And if you're not on the email list, sign up. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate it. And keep an eye out for an email from me tomorrow regarding those things. Have a good one.